It was one of those ordinary nights at the grocery store. The kind where nobody expects anything remarkable to happen. But sometimes, in the quiet aisles of everyday life, the most powerful stories unfold. A young mother stood in line, her hands trembling as she counted out quarters, dimes, and pennies to pay for just one can of baby formula. Behind her stood a man in an expensive suit, a man used to signing checks that bought entire companies. And yet in that moment he was silent. No one around him could predict what he was about to do. No one knew the quiet words he would whisper, words that would change her life forever. Put it on my card. Broken heart, the weight of quarters. Samantha's life had never been easy. At 28, she was a single mother raising her 6-month-old son, Noah, in a cramped one-bedroom apartment. Her days were a blur of juggling shifts at the diner, hustling for tips and coming home exhausted, only to wake up again and again for Noah's cries. Money was tight, so tight that every decision felt like a sacrifice. That evening after a long shift, she walked into the grocery store with a heavy heart. Noah had finished the last scoop of formula that morning. The doctor had told her he needed proper nutrition. But formula wasn't cheap. She had emptied her tip jar, a mix of tarnished and shiny coins, each one earned with aching feet, and 4 smiles for rude customers. As she stood in line, people behind her grew restless. A woman sighed loudly. A teenager tapped his foot. The cashier avoided eye contact. Samantha's cheeks burned as she laid the coins on the counter. She prayed it would be enough. Prayed no one would notice her shaking hands. But someone did notice. Man in suit levitating, the man in the navy suit. 2 places behind her stood a tall man in a perfectly tailored navy suit. His presence was quiet but commanding. His name was Daniel Reynolds, a CEO whose face often graced business magazines. But Samantha didn't know that. He had only stopped at the store to grab bottled water before catching a late-night flight. But his attention shifted when he saw the young mother, desperately counting coins to buy something as basic as baby formula. When the cashier said she was still short by 60 cents, Samantha's eyes welled up with tears. She reached into her purse, searching, even though she already knew there was nothing left. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Can you just take this off?" pointing at the formula. That's when Daniel stepped forward. His deep voice broke the tension, calm, firm, and without judgment. "Put it on my card." The room fell silent. Samantha froze, stunned, unsure if she heard him right. She turned slowly to face him. His eyes were kind, steady, not filled with pity, but with something much rarer, compassion. Her voice shook as she said, "You don't have to." He gave a faint smile and replied, "I know, but I want to." The cashier quietly swiped his platinum card. The formula was bagged. Samantha walked out of the store that night, a can of formula in her arms and a lump in her throat. Night with stars, a quiet blessing. Later that night, in her tiny kitchen, Samantha fed Noah using the formula Daniel had bought. She couldn't stop replaying the moment. Who was that man? Why had he helped her? A complete stranger, without expecting anything in return. She didn't even know his name, but the memory of his calm voice, "Put it on my card," gave her strength she hadn't felt in months. Luggage Daniel couldn't forget. Meanwhile, Daniel drove away from the store, but something about the moment stayed with him. He had grown up in comfort, in privilege, never knowing what it meant to count quarters. But in that checkout line, he saw strength. He saw love. He saw the fierce sacrifice of a mother who refused to give up. He couldn't stop thinking, what must it be like to fight that hard every single day, just to survive? Envelope, a note, and a gift. Samantha's struggle didn't end that night. Rent was overdue. Her shifts at the diner were suddenly cut. The weight on her shoulders only grew heavier. Then, one evening after a double shift, she found a small envelope slipped under her apartment door. Inside was a short note, written in neat handwriting. "Keep going. You're stronger than you know. D." And tucked inside was a gift card. To the very same grocery store. Her heart pounded. It had to be him. But how had he found her? She felt torn. Part of her was grateful. Another part was uneasy. She didn't want charity. But deep down she knew. This wasn't charity. It was someone believing in her. Someone silently rooting for her. Wrapped gift more than coincidence. Weeks passed. Little acts of kindness began to appear in her life. A bag of groceries left at her door. A neighbor mentioning the landlord had suddenly given her a rent extension. Toys for Noah, left anonymously outside her apartment. She never saw who it was, but she felt it. Someone was watching over her. Not to judge, not to rescue, but to lift her, quietly, when she needed it most. Sunset the bench in the park. One evening, while walking Noah through the park, Samantha saw him again. Daniel. He was sitting alone on a bench, casually dressed this time. No expensive suit, just a man watching the sunset. She took a deep breath and walked toward him. Her voice was soft, almost unsure. "It was you, wasn't it?" He looked up and smiled, warm and humble. "Maybe. But it's not about me. It's about you. You're doing the hardest job in the world, and you're doing it alone. Sometimes, even the strongest people just need someone to remind them. They're not invisible." Tears streamed down her cheeks. No one had ever said that to her before. No one had ever seen her like that. Not just her struggles, but her strength. That day, they sat together and talked. About life. About dreams. About how small acts of kindness can change the direction of a life. Daniel didn't offer her pity. He offered her dignity. Because sometimes, the loudest love is silent. The deepest help is unseen. And the greatest heroes are just people who decide to notice.